intensity. Come on. This is your workout. Bring me what you got. Hit it.
We're gonna be supersetting biceps, triceps, and forearms and getting the most out of each one of these workouts.
Welcome back to Homebody. This is our core workout. Strong kick, strong core.
You can recover, you can grow, you can prevent pain and injury.
We've got 3, 2, and 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to Brain Gains. We're here for another awesome episode. I'm Tyler, this is my colleague Alec, and we're here with a couple of awesome members of the International Society of Sport Nutrition. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Dr. Susan Hewlings. I'm a registered dietitian from Central Michigan University, member of International Society of Sports Nutrition, and we come from Substantiation Sciences.
I'm Dr. Doug Kalman, also a registered dietitian from Nova Southeastern University and the International Society of Sports Nutrition, along with Substantiation Sciences.
Do you guys mind explaining what Substantiation Sciences is?
Sure. It's a company that we co-founded that helps other companies do science.
Okay.
And what I mean by do science is it helps do the deep dive of published research so that answers could be put together.
So we can create the science around the supplements that everyone's taking.
We help the supplement companies substantiate their claims. And by substantiating, we put science behind their claims. We help them to design the studies, answer science questions, and then publish the studies and get them out there and interpret them for the public.
And then in turn, Bodybuilding.com can use those studies to help spread the word to the viewers.
One thing was amazing to me. It was about 2 weeks ago, Sue and I published a paper on a probiotic from a probiotic study that we were involved with. And what was amazing to me was in 2 weeks, it's been downloaded 4,300 times.
Wow.
Which I cannot believe. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I wish there was royalties on that, but that was a lot.
Unfortunately, no.
No, it's just for the sake of science. But nonetheless, it shows to me that people are hungry for information, no pun intended, and that they want to have good science and good understanding because there's so much misinformation out there. And so it makes us happy when we're able to help people achieve their goals and when we're able to help companies know where they have a gap or where they're solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a list of questions, both from the viewers and as a part of relating to your guys' research, that we wanted to share with the viewers today. So I think we can just kind of dive right in, if you guys don't mind. And one of the big, I should say, topics that we see a lot on our forums and through our articles is nootropics. Do you mind kind of going into nootropics, what they are, what they do, how they work?
How many of us have started the day with a cup of coffee? You had a nootropic, okay? Not only is it, caffeine is a nootropic. Anything that really increases your ability for cognition, so for thought, for memory, for alertness, for focus, these are things that are nootropic in nature. Whether they are from a pharmaceutical side that are sometimes used, you could think of it for some of the medicines that are used with people that have cognitive decline, right? And or from the nutrition side, whether it's having a cup of coffee, taking a caffeine pill, even pre-workouts have other ingredients that are nootropic in nature.
Okay.
And so this has been, this was a term, nootropic, that I think that was coined by Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw almost about 30 years ago, actually, 20 to 30 years ago. And basically, it's a way of trying to support your brain to be better. Just like we like to exercise to improve our bodies, whether it's weightlifting, running, a combination of any of that type of stuff, it's the same thing for your brain. It's a way of uplifting your brain so that you can operate on a higher octane.
Okay.
And on that note, we have a question from YouTube. Matthew asks, is it safe to consume a nootropic daily?
It depends upon what is in that nootropic, honestly.
Nootropic is a category, just
Right.
to be clear.
Yes.
So it depends upon the supplement under the category, that
The
you're
ingredients.
consuming. Right. But caffeine, at the recommended doses, since you mentioned caffeine, is safe and has a lot of research to back up its efficacy, if we're going to focus on caffeine. But there are other nootropics for sure, with varying safety levels.
For example, the military has looked at a number of times 2 different amino acids for nootropic uses, potential nootropic uses. One being tyrosine, right, as a precursor for adrenaline, and one being taurine, as commonly found, quote unquote, in Red Bull.
Yeah.
And other drinks, and in amino acid products, and naturally in food.
Yeah, I've seen the studies about tyrosine. They give it to the soldiers who put them in the really cold water to see how they react to the stress.
Sure, exactly, and that's a way of evaluating, this type of ingredient.
Awesome.
Lots of research on arginine and arginine silicate and the benefits there. Maybe lesser known than caffeine, but nonetheless. So there are several supplements that are being investigated as nootropics.
Well, one that we discussed extensively in the past, and that you could find here on Bodybuilding.com is nitrosogene,
Okay.
which is the type of arginine. It's not just arginine; it's an inositol bonded to arginine. It's special, and that has more than 3 or 4 different studies showing cognitive benefit, both in younger athletic people and in older people who are not necessarily as young.
What kind of benefits are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about improved cognition. And what I'm talking about by cognition, we're talking about what's typically known as the ability to multitask.
Okay.
Okay? And so we're talking about what we talk as cognitive flexibility, right? And that's what we saw when we were doing those studies and publishing the data.
There were 2 different factors looking at that.
The way I look at cognitive flexibility, it's sort of your ability to play chess and also have a conversation over here at the same time.
Okay, it's a good skill.
Well, sometimes you need it in life. If you think about it, we all multitask.
Absolutely.
And research generally shows that people do not multitask well, right?
No.
So,
Drive behind the person who's texting, that'll show you.
well, please don't text while you drive.
Yeah, no,
please,
but
please.
it's a prime example of how poor people multitask.
Yes.
Very good.
For sure.
All right, well, let's move on. Yazin from YouTube has actually asked the perfect question to segue into our next topic. Yes, what's the best, or what is best to take with beta alanine? When should I take it? What is the best dose? So let's just talk about beta alanine. What's it about? What's it for? Let's talk about dosing, that kind of stuff.
Well, beta alanine, I like to think of beta alanine as a buffer for your muscles.
Okay.
Okay. Beta alanine, when we take it, it eventually gets metabolized to increase the carnosine levels inside your muscles.
Okay.
And when you have increased carnosine, and you can't just take carnosine to increase your carnosine, the body won't do that. Beta alanine is actually 2 amino acids that are bonded together, and then the body actually breaks it down and reforms it in your muscle to become carnosine. Nice. And what that does is it acts as a buffer and really is best for people that have exercise bouts that last in between 1 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
You could do multiple bouts that last 1 to 4 minutes, but it has best benefits for able to increase your exercise endurance and intensity.
Okay.
So when something is a buffer, right, in this instance, beta alanine works to help decrease the amount of acid accumulation that occurs in muscles at high intensity.
Right.
So that high intensity could be high interval sprints, it could be a kickboxing match, it could be if you could squat for 2 minutes straight. There's multiple ways that it's used. Dosage-wise, it's kind of interesting. You just do not take 1 dose and get the benefit. Most of the research shows that you need to take approximately 6.2 grams total in a day for 2 to 4 weeks to really get the benefit.
It's a lot.
It's typically the way that it's packaged and marketed and used in research is in small doses.
Okay.
So meaning that typically you'll use about 3 grams, let's say in your pre-workout, and then 3 grams some other time of the day.
Okay.
And it doesn't make,
sounds like
you have to
my day.
remember 3 grams in reality is equal to about a half a teaspoon.
Okay.
So that's not that much.
True.
A teaspoon of sugar makes the medicine go down. Don't add sugar to the beta alanine.
No.
Right? And I had to throw in that reference for whatever movie people could tell us that's from.
I'm going to speak for the viewers and say that 3 grams, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I know that if I take 3 grams of beta alanine, my whole body starts to tingle. What's going on there?
That's normal. That's actually telling you, that's one way of you knowing that your body metabolizes beta alanine normally, because it acts as a vasodilator, which means it opens up your blood vessels,
Okay.
and those opened up blood vessels make you sort of feel like you're itching
Yeah.
or burning
Yeah, my face, my
or
fingers.
on fire.
Yeah.
but typically dissipates after 20 minutes, and your body, just like your body gets used to the workouts that you do and you need to switch it up, your body gets used to that and that effect goes away. The good benefit doesn't go away, but the vasodilation negative effects go away. So that parrhesia, it's called, and I know I'm mispronouncing that word, it is something that is not harmful, it's just annoying.
At all.
Not dangerous at all, and there are ways of decreasing it. So if you took the beta alanine with a small meal, because of the surface volume of food that's in your stomach, it helps dissipate some of that occurs.
Cool.
Even if you took it with a baby aspirin, that helps decrease the amount of tingling that you get, but you still get the benefit.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, well, that's a really great talk about beta alanine. I hope that the viewers feel like they have all their answers, answers to all their questions. Let's move on to a very different topic. We're going to talk about the gut-brain axis and what that means. So can you kind of go into what that means? We've gotten a couple questions from viewers about it, not only today, but in days past. So I wanted to hear what you thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at the microbiome and gut health is really at the forefront of current research. And it isn't really changing topics, because you could almost consider probiotics and other gut health products as nootropics, because more and more information is coming out linking the gut and the brain directly through the vagus nerve, and also finding that we have serotonin and other neurotransmitters produced in the gut that affect the brain. And I think that on a just sort of like a personal experience, tangible level, when you eat poorly, you feel poorly. You have trouble concentrating, and everybody associates it with blood sugar, sure. I mean, and that's not wrong, but it's more than that. Especially if you go out of town or you're traveling for business and you eat consecutive days poorly in a row. It takes you a while to recover. Well, that's true. And what's recovering is that entire sort of ecosystem that lives within you, which is our microbiome. Now, you have a skin microbiome, you have your mouth, etc., but the largest community is in your gut. And we're finding more and more of the health impacts of having an imbalanced gut. So we see that obese people have a different microbiome, a different profile than do lean people. We see that people who exercise, people who eat healthy. And what we really look at in gut health is balance and diversity. And so a lot of people say, well, is this a bad bacteria? Is this a good bacteria? But it's more about the diversity. And healthy people have greater diversity, greater balance. And it shows up in decreased risk for heart disease, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, obesity. But it also shows up in brain health, whether it be for other things that Doug was mentioning related to nootropics, concentration, learning, ability to multitask.
It's fascinating.
Also looking at people who have cognitive issues, like beginning stages of dementia, and seeing that they have a different microbiome, and that by correcting that, we can help to offset some of that. Now, we're just in the beginning stages of that research, but it really is fascinating, and it really shows how our physiology is very interconnected. You can't have an unhealthy part and then the other part be healthy. It's all working together at all times.
Awesome.
And you really are what you eat. And I think that that's what this fascinating research shows.
Okay, so
I'm Captain Crunch?
So it's, okay, what if you have GI issues? You have gas and bloating and things like that. Well, should you take a probiotic, everyone wants to know. Well, the first place you want to look is your lifestyle, and make sure that you have a diet that's balanced. It's not all protein, all meats. You want to make sure you have plenty of vegetables and fiber. And fiber plays a big role in the microbiome. Okay. So you hear the term prebiotic. Well, the primary prebiotic is fiber. So
what's that mean, prebiotic? Do you mind going into that a little bit?
Well, prebiotic is really the food, if you will, for the probiotic, or the food for the beneficial bacteria, the food for the bacteria you want in the most abundance. Okay, so it's like the food for the probiotic, basically. And usually you'll see, if you see a food that says it has prebiotics, it'll have fiber. A lot of times it's inulin that they add to it. And then a lot of times it's in with a probiotic for that reason. They work together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
I found this fascinating. I'm not a big person necessarily on sleep, which is not good. But yesterday I was reading a report that came out of a research group out of Harvard, and this spin out of Harvard is harvesting the microbiomes of elite athletes, because they want to see what makes up the gut makeup, the microbiome of elite athletes, and then what can, eventually they want to know what can they potentially commercialize out of that gut for sports nutrition.
What are these people doing right that we can apply to?
Yeah, so they want to take the elite athletes, your Usain Bolts, your whoever else is elite in these days, I'm blanking at the moment, and take out their microbiome and then develop a whole slew of new probiotics from this microbiome of elite athletes that the rest of us can hopefully take to influence our microbiome. It's fascinating, it's early in the research, but what Sue was saying is we know for sure already that the microbiome for different people, whether you're obese, whether you're an athlete, whether you're diabetic, whether you're older and younger, is different, and there's something to be said about what might be optimal. And we're still in its infancy, so there's going to be tons of information, some good, not so good, that comes out. But the real point is that you have to have a diverse diet to have a healthy microbiome. Sure. And that should include pre and probiotics, and it should include a wide variety of fruits and vegetables.
And exercise. Exercise definitely makes a difference in the microbiome and helps to increase diversity. Lots of information related to that. And sleep factors in. It definitely does. You can't deny it.
Let's talk about sleep a little bit more. How does it factor in, and how can viewers make sure they're getting enough sleep, and how does that apply to their gains?
But that's a great question. I'm going to throw a question back at you.
Yeah.
When do you quote unquote grow?
I don't know. I guess when I'm sleeping?
Exactly. See, when you're in the gym, when you're weightlifting, when you're doing your sprints, when you're doing your CrossFit, when you're doing your Zumba, it doesn't matter what your workout is, you're actually inducing muscle damage, right? So you're not growing at that point. Your body needs that damage. Part of the stress response leads to recovery and growth. But your ultimate recovery comes when you have downtime. It's not when you're watching Maury Povich during the day and you're not the father. It's when you're sleeping, right? And during that sleep is when your body recovers. And so that's most important if you're looking to gain lean body mass, if you're looking to lose fat, if you're looking to optimize your body composition, getting optimal sleep or the range of optimal sleep. We also know, for example, people that get less than 6 hours a night of sleep, more like 5 hours or less, typically 30% greater obesity in people that get less sleep.
Wow.
And a greater incidence of insulin resistance, which makes it harder to shed fat, which makes it harder to control your blood sugar, which makes it harder to get to your goals.
Now, what is it about sleep that's messing with insulin response?
Well, because it's not only your muscles that recover, it's all of your cellular network, your nervous system. When your nervous system is overstressed, it affects your parasympathetic nervous system, affects your muscle system, affects everything, affects your microbiome.
Well, and it increases stress. So we see higher cortisol levels in people who don't sleep, and that's going to affect your microbiome, which in turn then affects insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, obesity, as we mentioned before. So
we can give you a perfect example. And for those people, I'll give you a medical example, right? So we all produce cortisol, and cortisol is a stress hormone, if you will, but too much cortisol has negative effects on our bodies over time. It makes us insulin resistant, adds to body fat, actually weakens your bones over time.
Right.
Okay? But there are certain people in life that have to be on some form of cortisol, a prednisone, asthmatics, and some other people where you see them after a while, they develop actually secondary diabetes due to the medicines. And while us people who might work out or overtrain and have high cortisol levels won't necessarily get to that level because it's not a pharmaceutical dose of cortisol going through your body, it's still having negative effects on your ability to get the most out of your workouts and to be energetic and optimally healthy.
Right.
Yeah, well, there have been studies that have shown that if you have elevated cortisol levels, like you might see during an injury or surgery, that you'll be insulin resistant somewhere around day 5, because typically that's associated with bed rest. And so by day 4 or 5, you're insulin resistance. So the combination of the inactivity and the cortisol lead to very rapid insulin resistance.
So one way, again, of reducing your cortisol levels is by getting adequate rest. Okay. And so to me, also part of adequate rest is 6 to 8 hours or so of sleep. And then when you do have downtime, actually taking downtime. Not saying, oh, I'm off today, so I'm going to go walk 5 miles and I'm going to go shopping, I'm going to go do this. Take a little bit of downtime. Put your feet up 6 inches off the ground. Make it easier for your body to pump blood throughout.
Okay.
Throughout.
Good.
Yeah, those recovery days really aren't days off because you need to consciously make sure you're focusing on the recovery and you're focusing on the adequate nutrition on those days.
Absolutely.
So it's not, the recovery day isn't the binge day.
Your cheat day is something else.
That's an important point. Susanna from YouTube asks, is it important to sleep before 12 a.m.? You mentioned hours of sleep. Does it matter when those hours are? I mean, light-wise, circadian rhythm-wise?
Well, we do know that it's probably best to try to follow your own circadian rhythm when you feel like going to sleep, to go to sleep. It's not necessarily always going to be, oh, it's 10 o'clock time to go to bed. But we do know it's important to get 6 to 8 hours. So if you're a person that's a night owl and you can't fall asleep, but you have the job and the lifestyle that allows you to do that, but still get your 6 or 8 hours, that's okay.
Okay.
So don't be caught up on what time the clock says. Be rather more focused on getting the total volume of sleep.
Okay.
And I think that most people then find they get into a pattern because there's something to be said for regular sleep patterns. And that, you know, if you go to bed one night at 3 and the next night at 9 and then the next night at, 11, that can screw up your circadian rhythms. And so that you'll find your body will fall into a pattern without you being like, oh my God, I got to go to bed. Oh my God, I got to get up. It'll naturally fall into that. And that definitely benefits as far as cortisol.
One of the easiest ways to illustrate circadian rhythms and your pattern is fly somewhere where you change time zones.
Yeah.
And then somehow, like if you're going from East Coast to West Coast and it's still only 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock California time, but you're an East Coast person and you're already tired and your body's telling you it's time to go to bed because that's what your body's used to back home, so to speak. So listen to your body. Don't fight it on everything.
We actually have a few questions from Facebook, from YouTube. A lot of people are asking about melatonin, about supplementing with it to help with your sleep. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It works. That's, unequivocal. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody because we've all met people that they can take 1 milligram, 3 milligrams, it doesn't do anything for, but generally it works.
Okay.
And one of the things that melatonin does, melatonin is a hormone that's secreted from your pineal gland.
Okay.
Your pineal gland is up close to your brain, if you will, right, in your brainstem area. And that secretion is one of the things that turns on your circadian rhythm, time to go to sleep.
Okay.
And so melatonin is helpful for people that are having sleep disturbances, sleep pattern disturbances, or not falling into deep sleep.
Okay.
Because deep sleep is actually the type of sleep where you recover most.
Right. Is there any worries with like dependencies on melatonin?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's definitely worth a try for anybody who is struggling. And, it's no substitute for trying to get into a regular pattern and sleep, but it may help you establish that pattern for sure. It's worth a try.
No, and I don't worry about an addictive quality. It's different than some of the over-the-counter medicines that are used to help induce sleep. Most of those are antihistamine heavy, and those have more potential for abuse over time, where melatonin does not necessarily have that same thing. An interesting aside about melatonin, one of the roles of melatonin in the body is also related to growth hormone.
Really?
And when do your growth hormone levels pretty much spike? When you sleep.
And another fun topic we were kind of talking off camera at the beginning was BCAAs and EAAs over efficacy's sake. I'd like to get your guys' take on that for our viewers. I know they ask about efficacy for BCAAs. It's a hot topic whether or not they work or not, depending upon what kind of training you do or just in general. You guys want to dig into that?
You want to start?
Well, yeah, do essential amino acids work, but especially leucine? Absolutely. Definitely suggest and promote them for anybody who wants to try to, they're no substitute for eating enough calories and eating enough protein in your diet, but they will give you that little extra, especially leucine. I'll let Doug speak to the branch chains.
So before we dig in, let's define these first. When I say EAA or essential amino acids versus branched chain amino acids, what's the difference there? And then we can talk about efficacy.
Well, essential amino acid means you have to get it from your diet. Our bodies cannot make it on our own.
Okay.
Right? So that's the first definition that we have to understand. Now, branched chain amino acids have to do with the chemical structure of the amino acids. They're branched. Right? Sort of like how amylopectin is. It's a type of starch, right? But branched chain amino acids are branched, and branched chain amino acids are part of essential amino acids.
All of them?
All three.
Okay.
Or the three main branched chain amino acids.
Okay.
Leucine, isoleucine, and valine.
Okay.
Those are the key branched chain amino acids.
So essential amino acids is like a wider net of amino acids, and branched chain kind of fit into that group.
Exactly.
Okay.
Essential is approximately 9 amino acids,
Okay.
and plus or minus histidine, depending upon whether you're stressed or an infant.
Okay.
But nonetheless, it's 1/3 of your essentials,
Right.
if you will. Now, to understand, there is utility I look at branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids as part of your toolbox. And nutrition is part of your toolbox as well as lifting weights is.
Okay.
Right? It's part of your training tool. And as Sue said, which is wholeheartedly true, EAAs or BCAAs are not meant to take the place of food. A supplement means in addition to, not instead of, right? So what they are is for practical uses. So if you can have a whole protein shake after your workout, do that instead of a BCAA or an EAA. But if you're the type of athlete that is cutting weight, or you're the type of athlete that you get sore more often than not, then both EAAs, because it contains BCAAs, and BCAAs on their own have a role and have utility.
Okay.
Both BCAAs and EAAs will stimulate something known as muscle protein synthesis.
Right.
That's the good part. You want muscle protein synthesis to outdo muscle protein breakdown in your body.
And all the protein, I mean, if you have a complete protein, it's going to stimulate muscle protein synthesis as long as you have enough calories and everything's in place. And leucine is the primary stimulator.
The driver.
But each time we say, yeah, the driver is a good way to say it. But we're fine tuning. So that's why we say start with a good diet, make sure you have enough calories, make sure you have enough protein. Yes, you need enough essential amino acids, particularly leucine. And each time we go down the line, we're fine tuning.
Perfect.
But we got to have that foundation of enough calories and enough protein.
Jake from Facebook asks, what foods are good for getting these BCAAs and EAAs? So you mentioned complete proteins. What are examples of that?
Well, complete proteins are anything that have all the essential amino acids in the amount that you need. You know, that's a textbook definition. All the essential amino acids in the amount you need to build muscle. And so meats, eggs, dairy products, they all have all the essential amino acids, soy products. And then you can do vegetable proteins. Sometimes you have to combine, like rice and beans. And then a lot of the vegetable protein powders, like the rice proteins, pea proteins, have all the essential amino acids there as well. And so those would be complete proteins.
Awesome.
There was a recent study that I was involved in, that we were involved in, that actually compared whey protein to rice protein in a group of elite athletes. And what we were looking at over time, and this is not just one study, there's been many studies, what we were looking at over time was, would there be any difference in the ability to maintain or maintain?
Gaintain, that's our new word.
Maintain.
No
We're
gaintaining.
gaintaining over here. A lot of cognitive something. We were looking at whether there would be the ability to maintain or gain muscle, or any difference in between whey and rice when it was taken beyond normal food.
Okay.
So these athletes ate their regular diet, and then they supplemented with 25 grams of whey or 25 grams of rice protein isolate right after they were done training, right after, meaning within the first hour, and then 50 more grams later in the day, anytime they wanted, 75 total extra grams of protein. And yes, that's a lot of extra protein, but the idea was these athletes, train about 35 hours a week. They live in a gym. That's their full-time job. These are actually professional mixed martial artists, UFC athletes and Bellator fighters that we did a study with.
Okay.
And the end result was really that, in the way that I say it is, didn't matter where the protein source came from, as long as you were getting enough of it.
Okay.
So if you're a vegan or if you're a vegetarian, yes, you do need a little bit more protein than a meat eater, but as long as you're getting enough, you will get the results. And what do I mean by a little bit more? If you're a vegan or vegetarian, I have those type of athletes I work with aim for about 1.5 times the amount of protein a meat eater would get.
Wow, 50% more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
50% is not much.
So when you're at the low levels, like let's say it's like a 20-gram dose,
Okay.
there's going to be a difference. The complete proteins are going to stimulate protein synthesis more than the vegetable proteins.
Yes.
But then once you get above and you get at the higher doses, like what we did in that study, it evens out. And I think that's the message, is like you might have to eat a little bit more, but and there are plenty successful athletes that have seen gains on a vegan or vegetarian diet. You just have to pay a little extra attention.
It was interesting. There was a study done by Dr. Ralph Yeager and associates, where they looked at the leucine uptake from rice protein as compared to whey protein. Now, leucine being the primary driver for muscle protein synthesis, and found that leucine was actually absorbed faster from rice protein, but over time the amount was the same. So it absorbs faster into your body.
Okay.
Faster meaning a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But it's still a couple minutes. But over time, you still got the same results.
Interesting.
So it's not an inferior protein, is my point. And as Sue said, the take home is, get your food part of your diet down first.
Right.
And then you use the supplements. The way I look at protein supplements is or partially the way I look at it is, we live in an on-the-go society, right? We don't sit home and cook all of our meals all the time. Not most of us. Most of us get up, go work out, go to work, then from work we go do something else. So you're on the go. And that's when these fit in quite well. I like my athletes to have that protein shake after they're done training, because I know they're not going to make it home right away and have a meal. And what does that do? When you are having a protein shake, what are you adding that powder to? A liquid. So it's also helping you rehydrate from that workout that you just did. Right? And it's also helping a couple of other things, restore some glycogen, restore some your amino acid levels in your blood, and good things.
Question from YouTube here from Pratik. This is a good one. Do BCAAs spike the insulin response?
Not the same way sugar does.
Okay.
So I think that the small spike that occurs from a BCAA is overblown in the media. What I mean by media, the bodybuilding media, the fitness media. There's a misunderstanding about insulin spikes and glucose spikes.
Because I've seen, I'm sure you've heard of intermittent fasting, and they say don't take BCAAs during your fasting period because the BCAAs will spike your insulin, which is...
It's not going to make you diabetic, and I think that's a whole load of crap. If I could be quite blunt.
Please do.
Okay, intermittent fasting, if you are fasting, you are not eating or drinking. You are not fasting if you're drinking BCAA.
Okay.
It's like saying, I'm a vegetarian, can I have that steak, please? Okay? No. Okay? And really, the whole goal of intermittent fasting, alternate day fasting, or any of these, 16-8 range, are over time that you're eating less calories.
Right.
That's all it really is. There's no magic pill to it. If it works for you, great, it works. But the answer is you're eating less calories.
And people have been doing it forever without even knowing they're doing it.
You want to know? You want to know?
Intermittent fasting.
I intermittent fasted last night. It's called sleeping. Right?
But I mean, the thing is when people say, well, does that stimulate insulin? I'm like, wait, why is that bad again? We need insulin. It's an anabolic hormone.
We do.
I mean, yes, insulin in excess is associated with insulin resistance, et cetera. But in a healthy, balanced person, we need insulin. It's one of our anabolic hormones, and it's a stimulus for protein synthesis. Let's
exactly.
not
Your
forget
key right there.
Yeah.
Insulin is used to help drive leucine and other amino acids into the muscle for muscle protein synthesis.
Yeah. Leucine by itself, if it doesn't have insulin with it,
doesn't
it
do
needs
much.
insulin. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're coming towards the end of our time here, so I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. As we're signing off, let's just get a little quick soundbite from you guys. What's your favorite exercise to do in the gym?
I like to box.
You like
actually.
to box?
Yeah, I like the challenge. It's human chess to me. And so it's not just go hit somebody. It's actually understanding that if this person steps this way, I need to step that way. If I want to get you to move to somewhere, I have to do something. So to me, that's just my latest sport. The last 4 years I've been doing it. But it involves mind and body.
Great.
So I like that. And I still do weight lift. I love the Olympic lifts. I would always love bench pressing for some reason. But, so that's what I do.
Perfect. And what about you?
Well, I mean, I'm an addicted runner. I'll admit it. I am a trail runner and adventure racer. Those are my passions. But I also go to the gym, rollerblade. I just keep active. Paddleboarding. I live on the open water. I try to go paddleboarding as much as possible. And recently I've started doing aerial arts, which I love, like the lyra and things like that. So I don't like to sit still. I think that's a shorter answer. What don't you like to do? And sitting still is not my forte.
Well, we lucked out keeping you guys still for a little bit. But
try not to spin my chair.
This has been so much fun. The time has passed way too fast.
No.
And for our friends on the socials, where can they find you guys?
Well, I would like to give 3 things if possible. If you're interested in sports nutrition, please go to theissn.org, and then you could see the conferences that we have, and you could come attend and hear all of this firsthand from researchers that do research for applicability.
I know I'll
right?
be there.
And then, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Doug Kalman, PhD, RD, or Instagram, just Doug Kalman.
And substantiationsciences.com is our website, and we'll have a LinkedIn page and Instagram coming soon. And then our personal sites. We post a lot of stuff on our Facebook. I'm Sue Hewlings. You can find Susan Hewlings. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, this has been another pretty awesome episode of Brain Gains. Thank you, everyone, so much, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.